I was staying at my friend's place for the weekend. She was away on a trip with her family, but she had a small cat that was afraid of thunderstorms. That weekend, we were supposed to get a really bad storm. Her cat, Molly, was very independent though, usually just sitting alone in whichever room she felt like. It started storming the day before my friend left and continued throughout the whole weekend. This was on Saturday. I had spent the night there with no issues at all. Molly did fine with the storm. That morning, I enjoyed relaxing on her comfy couch and reading. I always loved staying at my friend's place because it was out in the woods. It felt so isolated and peaceful. Midway through the day though, a call came in on the home phone. This was back when those were a common thing. I checked in case it was her trying to reach me, but it said unknown number, so I didn't answer. A few minutes later, a call came through again. Same thing, unknown number. I let it ring out, but this time a voice came through on the answering machine. It was a quiet male voice. He just said one word, my friend's name, as if asking if she could hear him. Then he hung up after a couple of seconds of silence. I didn't know if this was someone she was talking to or maybe a family member, so I texted her to let her know someone called the home phone. I did find it strange that it came up as an unknown caller, though. Over the next 3 hours, 2 more calls came in from that same number, but no more voice messages. My friend never responded either. I figured they were just busy and didn't worry much about it. I made food and spent the rest of the day relaxing. Later, around 8 or 9, I found a movie to watch upstairs in the bedroom. About halfway through, I remembered to check on Molly to make sure she had food and water. I went downstairs but was confused to see her standing at the front door, staring at the crack in the doorway like she was waiting for it to open. I called her name. She looked at me, but only for a moment before looking back at the door. It creeped me out, if I'm being honest. I walked up to the door and hesitantly looked out the peephole at the porch. The glass had fogged up from all the rain, so everything was blurry and I couldn't really make anything out. But then something moved enough for me to tell there was someone or something standing on the other side of the porch. I felt unsettled but continued watching, trying to get a clearer view. I really wanted to know for sure if someone was out there, but I also didn't want to open the door if there was someone there. 2 to 3 minutes went by with no changes. I thought I was just scaring myself. After all, if someone was out there, they would have knocked by now. I left the door to check Molly's food and water, and to grab myself some snacks. When I passed the door again, Molly was no longer there. I looked out, just to double check, and something looked different. It was still fogged up and blurry, but one of the shapes I saw before was no longer there, like it had just vanished. Was someone really standing there the whole time? Feeling off about everything, I picked Molly up and brought her to the bedroom with me. I turned the movie back on and sat on the bed. The whole time, I couldn't shake a deeply unsettling feeling. 30 minutes went by, and suddenly Molly jumped off the bed and walked up to the bedroom door. She didn't scratch at it or look back at me, she just stared at the crack, exactly like she did at the front door. My heart immediately started racing. I called her name with a shaky voice, but she didn't move. I got up and walked over, leaning my ear against the door. I couldn't hear anything. I crouched down and peered under the door, and my whole body jolted back. There was someone standing right outside, just inches away. My eyes immediately shot to the doorknob. I hadn't locked it. I snapped the lock shut, and almost right away, the person on the other side ran away from the door and downstairs. I could no longer hear anything. I called 911, then my friend. By the time cops got there, the house was empty. Nobody was around. With all the information, it seemed the intruder was likely a stalker, probably the same one who kept calling. They tried to trace the number but had no luck. That was pretty much it. I feel bad for my friend because whoever that man was, he was definitely stalking her and not me. I don't know if it was just a coincidence that they showed up when she was gone, or if they thought the house would be empty. Maybe they were planning to wait and catch her off guard when she came back from vacation. We never found out who they were or what they wanted.
This was in mid-November of last year. I had just gotten laid off due to budget cuts. Luckily, I had some money saved up to cover things while I searched for a new job. For several weeks, I was stuck at home just looking through job listings on my laptop. After the first 2 weeks, I started getting impatient. I had applied to every position I was interested in but hadn't gotten a single response. I tried using some different job websites. One of them gave me a bit more luck. I found a few new openings to apply to. Later in the day, I finally got an email. The manager introduced himself as Zach and said he had a packed schedule, but he wanted to interview me that night if possible. I wasn't fully prepared, nor did I feel comfortable asking why it had to be so last minute. But I didn't want to pass it up. The job seemed to be a regular sales job, but the pay was great. I agreed to the interview, and Zach sent the address. Be there at 7:30. I got ready and headed over, arriving 15 minutes early. I hadn't had time to research the company, so I wasn't sure what to expect. The place he sent me to was a small building with no signage, just an address number. All the lights were off, and the parking lot was empty. Something felt off. I checked the address again. Still the same. I looked it up online. Still the same. No business name. I called the number Zach had used in his email. No answer. I tried a couple more times, still nothing. I waited until 7:45, then left. The whole thing felt sketchy. I got home, annoyed about wasting time, but I decided to just move on. I cracked open a beer and turned on the TV. I stayed up pretty late. Throughout the night, though, I kept hearing creaking noises upstairs. It didn't sound abnormal. It was probably the house settling, but I still checked to see if it was windy outside. It wasn't. Eventually, I got tired and went to bed around 10. I fell asleep quickly. Then suddenly, I was awake again, my eyes opened in the pitch-black room. I heard the same creaking noise, but this time, it was much closer. On the other side of the room. I looked over and heard a soft sliding sound. The closet was opening. I couldn't move. I was frozen, watching the closet door slowly slide open. At first, I wasn't sure if I was dreaming. Then, a figure leaned out from behind the door. That's when my body jerked awake. I jumped out of bed, grabbed my phone, and ran, opposite of the closet. The figure didn't move. He just stood there staring. I was 100% sure what I saw was real. I ran out of the house and called 911 from the yard. I stayed outside, watching the staircase through the front window. I didn't want him to get away, but in hindsight, it probably wasn't smart. A few minutes later, 2 cops arrived. I told them he was in the closet. They found him still hiding there. When they pulled him out, I was horrified. Long, oily hair. Filthy clothes. Wide, cold eyes. He didn't say a word. Later, we learned the truth. He had made fake job listings on multiple sites, hundreds of them. He had all my info from the resume I submitted. He broke into my house while I was out for the interview, and waited for me to come back, then slept just feet away from me, hiding the entire night. To this day, nobody knows what he planned to do.